Partners Tennessee Watchdog.org. A new TV documentary focusing on Music City premieres next month. But there are some questions about the program's funding after discovering the film was paid for by your money, taxpayer dollars, that were possibly meant for flood victims. Fox 17's Michaela Lewis picks it up from here.
Stacy, the Nashville documentary was funded by a federal grant the city received after the historic May flood of 2010. A Tennessee Watchdog.org article by Chris Butler brought the story to light. Tonight, Fox 17 News looks at whether the money was supposed to be used for disaster relief or to make a movie.
All right.
30 artists like Kings of Leon and Vince Gill.
We had an opportunity to really tell 130-year history of the depth and breadth and diversity of music in this town.
Hits started coming.
But the funding behind For the Love of Music, the story of Nashville, may not be a hit to some.
2011, we were awarded an economic development grant tied to flood relief.
The Nashville Convention and Visitors Corps president, Butch Spiriton, says Music City received about $2 million in an Economic Development Administration grant after meeting strict guidelines and approval following the 2010 flood. $200,000 was used from the grant, and the city invested $100,000 to produce the film.
It was a federal grant tied to economic development. But it wasn't for reconstruction. It wasn't for flood mitigation. It was for economic development.
The EDA, I called them, and their official spokesperson told me that, yes, that's what this money was for, flood disaster relief. And furthermore, she said that it's not at all uncommon for the federal agency to give communities taxpayer money to do whatever they wish.
Chris Butler, a writer for the Tennessee Watchdog.com, questions if the money was used properly.
This flood was 3.5 years ago, and I realized that there are still to this day people who are still cleaning up.
I mean, there was SBA money, there was disaster relief funds. The city and the state received a lot of federal aid and assistance related to the flood.
Spiriton says the documentary will air nationally and internationally as well.
Good for Nashville, good for tourism, good for economic development. All the things that it was supposed to do, we did. I make no apologies for doing our job and doing it pretty damn well.
The ADA could not be reached for comment in time for the story tonight, but Butch Spiriton says the NCDC announced receiving the grant 2 years ago. All 30 artists in For Love of Music, the story of Nashville, donated their time and music rights. Michaela Lewis, Fox 17 News.